What's up everybody, Frank Wilk here, welcome to the channel. Today we're gonna talk about the whole series of Squid Game. So in case you haven't watched the show, please don't watch the video because there are gonna be quite some spoilers, and also I'm gonna play a video here, somebody else just underneath to see something while we talk. We're gonna do this in a raw one take. Life is too short for multiple takes. So let's get into it and let's talk about it. So spoilers ahead, go away if you haven't watched it. Anyway, let's play this behind here, just we have some images. Okay, first thing first. Shut up, I have to talk. First thing first, I watched the first episode, then I made a reaction, and then I thought, okay, I gotta watch this through and through. So I went from the second to the last one in just a day and a half. So I have to say that my idea from the first episode changed slightly, and some not really. In terms of like, is the show quite entertaining? It is, even though I'm not a great fan of slaughter and all killing and all that kind of stuff. It's not much my thing, I have to say. But I was curious because, like I said also in the other video, I've been a fan of Takeshi Kitano, this type of Yakuza movies, so I'm not totally unfamiliar with some of the stuff, you know, like a little bit also stereotypical way of portraying mobs and the interaction between, the people lending money and so on and so forth. Even though I maintain it's kind of weird that in 2021 there are places where a loan shark, they lend you hundreds of thousands of euro to a gambler. It seems really far-fetched, you know. I'm not saying that people loaning money for very high interest, they don't exist anymore in some place or country, whatever, but I'm just saying it seems far-fetched that you will get that much money continuously. Loan sharks are not idiots. They go like, hey, this is a gambler, we give him 100,000 euro, 200,000 euro, we are done, we're never gonna see it again. So seems a little far-fetched. But anyway, let's get in the second episode, which was quite interesting because I didn't expect actually that by a vote they were able to get out again of the game. So that was pretty awesome because then those people go back to their old life, and you also sort of build up to this continuous desperation. Their reality hasn't changed, which somehow forces them to make the decision to go back willingly, which that was a nice twist. But the thing that also was kind of surprising to me is that how some of the basic stuff of this series actually was very similar to movies like Salò, 120 Days of Sodom, which is an old movie from Pierpaolo Pasolini, actually quite disturbing movie, which has some of the elements that you would recognize here. And I think it's also a movie that probably inspired Eyes Wide Shut of Stanley Kubrick, which this seems to also be inspired from. If you have never seen Eyes Wide Shut, actually it's been quite some time, maybe it's time to go back and look at it. So the game itself, the sort of part of the game, I get it, like it sort of shows this slow build up of different human characters and different human interaction, the sort of the stereotypical aspect of you put people in a desperate circumstances and you see what is the outcome. It's a sort of morality tale plus social experiment by who is carrying it out to try to find out whether or not their idea, the people in control of this game, their idea of morality or truth or justice is reflected in the outcome of the game. And of course they gamble on it. So in that part, I get it, can be interesting. You get a bunch of broken people which they've found themselves in the position they are thanks also to their poor decisions. But at the same time, you see that even, like the dim-wit character here, that it's totally lost in his gambling addiction and living off his poor mother that turns out to have diabetes, and is the reason why he goes back to the show. Even this character that is so broken, it's nice to see that the sort of redemption arc. It seems also from the different character, the one that retains the most humanity throughout the game. It's like, of course, the whole show can be seen just as a big metaphor, like it's absurd, of course, in the scope, but the real meaning behind it, it's of course, like any, I guess, story, to make a point of either, a morality tale, of course, and make a point of also society where it's heading. And it's interesting to see how different characters react, of course, to this like continuous being put under stress and having to survive. So the character of the dimwit guy there, like, it was the one I liked probably the most, but just because, despite his idiocy, despite the fact that he seems always compelled to make the wrong decisions, as if he's just hopeless in life, to try to understand how to, kind of redeem yourself or see other possibilities, he seems the one that still has the most humanity and empathy towards everyone else. And we see, of course, that in the other characters, including the Tug Gear or the friend of the dimwit guy, they're really kind of, when it comes to their survival, they're prepared to sacrifice others without much regrets, So that part, of course, is interesting, but also a little bit, in my opinion, overrated. There is part of the games where I think it starts to get a little slower. After a while, I got like, okay, this seems like a theater play, especially because a lot takes place inside this dorm room. So the acting was quite good, the emotions, but sometimes I felt also too much drama, too much in the fashion of being on a theater stage, which of course you need that because you don't have all the other things happening. And to me, that seems exactly what was going on, because a lot of time was spent in this dorm. And also when we got to the I think the game of the marbles, that was super long. One mistake that I made was to watch the first episode in English spoken, dubbed, and that was awful. It was really awful. I was like, wow, this is not the way of dubbing a movie. And of course, the original version with subtitle is so much better, because the actors are really good, I have to say. They do an impressive performances in their drama, even though I still think it's a little bit over the top. So one part also that I didn't like is that there were certain parts which were growing to be quite interesting, and then kind of went through a little bit of an underwhelming development. Like, for instance, the cop pursuit, the sort of the side story of the cop. To me, that was very interesting. First of all, big guts to the young cop, that really goes on a journey to find his brother and to unmask this whole thing. He really puts in the work, and it feels also like the sort of like not moral compass, but like the person that is doing the right thing most of them all, basically. And I really enjoyed the development on it and the guts that he had in trying to find his way through, and he managed to stay and discover things. So that was building up to be very interesting, and I was kind of disappointed the way it turned out. So another part that was we get back to the cop in a second. The other part that was awful were the VIP episode. Of course, like I said, this is a morality tale, so it's in a way wants to showcase probably how like a society of wealth and greed, and people that control this wealth and greed can develop an absurd distortion of life in order to pursue fun, just to entertain themselves. And you could argue that the game also you could argue that the show works in two ways, in the way of showing this, proving how sick those people are, that they have nothing left but the pursuit of this absurd type of game, putting people in peril just for their own enjoyment. That's quite sick, actually. But also the fact that we are watching this basically, which is full of gore and killing innocent people just because they're, some of them, they got in debt because of their life's choices. That doesn't mean that all of them deserve to be killed as if they were just, pawns, meaningless creatures. But anyway, overall, the episode of The Veep was just awful in terms of acting. I don't know who wrote that, but it was so caricaturial, like it was just a character, really. And I can understand that probably maybe they went for the overblown caricature, the bad guy is really bad type of thing, instead of perhaps putting a little bit more nuance, as you would see, for instance, in Eyes Wide Shut, which is a tremendous thriller, if you ask me. Beautiful, beautiful thriller. Again, both of them probably wanting to showcase a reality behind society, that normal people are not part of, a reality probably of, we could go into conspiracy theory here, the Illuminati and the Bilderberg group, this ritualistic aspect of, the like, for instance, the Masonic lodges. You see also those VIPs with the masks, which they attend this ritual in this plush room there, decorated by human beings. So you see also their kind of very dictatorial and ruthless behavior, feeling that they are above other human beings, basically humiliating the human form by using them as basically decoration. The guy is literally resting his head in some plush boobs right there. So we get the point, of course. Wants to make that point that there is a curtain behind society that is controlled by these sick minds, people looking for greed, and they've achieved so much that they feel basically some kind of ruthless gods among men, and the only way they have to entertain themselves is to put other discriminated or broken people into danger. The thing that, of course, everybody was probably shocked a little bit was, even though I in a way I suspected it, is that the big reveal at the end that basically the old man, the player number one, was actually the creator of this whole thing. And once the dim-wit guy here wins the game against his childhood friend, he goes to basically 1 year of probably introspection and pain and feeling guilt and all that kind of emotion, because of course now he has the money, but he went through that whole emotional turmoil of seeing all those other people dying, and of course that probably plays with your head, whether you were worth it or not, and the guilt that arises from it. So the big reveal that he gets a ticket from the old man, and they meet and they play one last game, sort of to try to make a point of the old man, that people are careless, people don't care about each other, and therefore they deserve to die when they choose to join the game. But then also it turns out to be untrue, because at the end he loses the last game of whether or not the old man drunk on the street will be rescued by somebody before midnight. And it turns out that somebody was kind enough to do so, and there is this ominous scene where the old man dies exactly at midnight, and then of course there is already speculation whether or not he really died, or he probably just drank something that put him to sleep. Again, we have the big reveal of the front man after the cop manages to escape the island, and he was chased, and he also tries to contact the police. To me, there wasn't clear if the police got some stuff. It seemed like that some messages did manage to be sent, so I assume if there is a second scene, something perhaps is going to connect to that. But the big reveal, of course, is the cop went there to search for his brother, and his brother turned out to be the front man that was an old participant that he won, and that he ended up being part of the system, part of that, that whole game. And to me, that was a little bit underwhelming because I really liked the cop story. It was really thrilling. I really liked these guts and the motives. So I thought that perhaps could have turned a little bit better. You know, maybe I wanted to watch a different show, maybe where he had a bigger part. But that was a really nice part for me. So I'm not 100% sure he died. You know what I mean? After all, he was shot on the shoulder the same way he shot his brother on the shoulder that he survived that. He took the bullet out, the front man took the bullet out himself. So I wonder if he really died or he managed to survive. You know, after all, if we consider there is a chance that he asked for the Coast Guard to come. So maybe there is a chance that in the second season maybe he was rescued. Could be pretty cool, actually. I would love to see that character come back because to me it was really interesting. And of course, the dim-witted guy painting his hair red after meeting the old man, sort of starting to get back to his life, even though in a completely different way. And we have this big reveal also, of course, at the end that the game is still going on. He meets the same guy that actually enticed him to be part of the game at the station again. And he gets another ticket. He takes the ticket from the guy that was playing with the other, with the enticer at the train station. And he calls in again. And for a moment I thought, like, come on, is this guy like, sort of like you fall in love with your abuser, so to speak, you know? It's like, he's that dumb that he's going to go back and wants to play again. But then it turns out that on his way out of the country, going with the money to meet his daughter again, he decides to call and basically threaten them to be coming for them. So in that way, it could be an interesting second season. You know, like the distraction of the Squid Game corporation, so to speak. Again, the big reveal here is that those rich people, they're doing this just for fun. It's a little weak, but also in the scope of the distorted reality perhaps the elitists live in, it's not so far-fetched. You know what I mean? Because in some respect, society seems to be heading that way, where the interest of the corporation and the interest of making money trumps anything else and everyone else, even the need perhaps for some people to be helped. Because of course, if we go back to the people which they're in debt, it might be appealing to say, it's like, okay, but it's their choices, you know? They're gamblers, they're thugs, they're this, they're that, they made wrong decisions in investing in business, they go bankrupt, it's their life, it's their business, they deserve that. It's easy to go that way, but at the same time, if the show wants to make a good point through the dim-witted guy, is that despite everything, despite all the mistakes, despite all that we judge, you know, from the outside, we judge those people from, despite everything, despite all the circumstances, some people, or in this case humanity represented by the dim-witted guy, has still empathy for one another, you know? And again, to close the argument here, to close the conversation, I would say, actually I lost the thread for a second. Oh yes, I wanted to say, like, the fact that those people are you know, like, broken and lost and everything doesn't mean that they do not deserve our empathy and also a chance perhaps for redeeming themselves, you know, like just helping them out in one way or another. So I think that's probably the better point of, if you want to take, you know, like a sort of meaning out of this show, this is probably the better part of this show. The elitists believe that you get what you saw and you deserve it, and also they strip humanity out of people which seems undeserving, even though they say that they're giving them a fair opportunity, but in fact they're just manipulating them for the sake of proving their point, you know, that they deserve what they got and they have to die for their entertainment. So that's that's quite ruthless if you ask me. So anyway, guys, if I miss something, this is of course always a train of thoughts on the flow, uncut, everything. I would say that the show was pretty alright, but honestly, 10 out of 10, it seems a little bit too much. I would say like 7.5 is okay as a show, but no 9, no 9.5 or 10. 7.5, 7.8, okay, it's pretty alright. And I could have also lived with a little bit less violence, you know. But then anyway, it's okay. There's people who would like that. So if I miss something, let me know. Share your thoughts as well. And yeah, I'm actually curious to see the second season too if they do it. I'll talk to you later. Ciao.